Awesome. And I'm going to share my screen real quick. All right. You get to see my little one for a moment. And where is the play?
Go to view.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. All right, you can see my screen. All right, good. All right, cool. Well, Eric, this was kind of, I mean, you reached out to me. So how about you start and like how we got started with this idea?
Absolutely, yeah. So I reached out to you. I wanted to put something together. I've been in the business for about 5 years now, coming up this July, but I've been full-time for 3 years. And one of the things that really helped me jumpstart my business was working with, well, there we go, we got the slide. One of the things that helped me jumpstart my business was working with investors. So I'm only 25. I've been in the business. I was at a super young age. It's really hard to try and convince your friends who are in college to buy homes. So I was working on getting that kind of built up and doing just the normal realtor activities. Got into the business because I wanted to invest in property. So kind of started working with investors, going to meetups, doing everything I could, trying to add value as much as I could. And it's been amazing. Just because of this, I've been able to grow my business in a way that I didn't think I'd be able to so quickly. So that's why I had reached out to you. I joined EXP and was watching you talk about all this stuff. I'm like, we're just these like-minded people who have had investing in real estate kind of help them get to where they are. So just wanted to be able to give back, help people kind of get to that point and how to do it.
Awesome, man. Well, so maybe dive into a little bit more of what you're up to now, your experience, and then I'll take over after that to share a little bit about myself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll go off it's nice to have the slideshow. So the past 2 years, me and my wife, we've done a little bit over 100 transactions. 40 of those in the past 2 years have been helping people flip properties. I got brought on with a local guy who was kind of he actually just wanted somebody for marketing, and I was like, dude, I'll do it. So I was doing videos at all his properties. And over time I would start sending him some properties. I'm like, this looks like, hey, numbers work out. Looks like it'd be a really good flip. And after a while, he's like, you know what? You on the marketing side is amazing, but you on the acquisitions disposition side would be significantly better. So we started working together, and he's like, you're just going to go out and find the properties for me, and we'll run through it and see what the rehab costs are going to be. You can kind of let me know what the market looks like, and we'll get that all set up. So over the past 2 years, we've done 40 of those. And that's just on market. So off market, we've also helped wholesale. We've helped buy and hold investors. So those are actual just MLS stats on that one. Past 2 years, I've been super blessed. So we've been top 10% agents in Ohio and top 10% agents in Cincinnati. It's a super competitive market. We're a Rust Belt state. We have a ton of great rentals and flips. So we have a ton of agents that kind of carved that niche out with working with investors, and it's a great part of their business. So we were excited to kind of jump onto that as well. Currently, this year, we just brought on our first 2 team members. So we're building our team in Cincinnati, got licensed in Florida last year. It's where I grew up. So looking at building a team down in Tampa as well. I should have an agent joining the team here in the next couple months that'll run our leads. I'm working on coaching younger agents. I'm only 25, and I see a lot of agents get in the business and really struggle to kind of grow, really struggle to have that confidence and do what they need to do to be successful. I mean, real estate's oftentimes always kind of, at least in our area, it's, the age discrepancy is definitely there. So I'm working with a ton of younger agents on growing their business and how to kind of take control of what they're doing. We're also working on growing our team nationwide. So with EXP, we've been bringing people on in different markets, just working with the people above us who are amazing, and just making sure that people kind of have access to the same stuff we have access to. Continuing to work with investors and wholesalers. I think this week we picked up a couple, and it's been great. We've got a couple off-market duplexes we're showing tomorrow, another duplex we're listing hopefully in the next week or so, which is going to be awesome. And that's kind of it. It's backstory of me super quickly.
Awesome, man. Yeah, it was. I haven't known Eric long. When did we connect? Like November of last year?
December. I was on
December.
vacation. Yeah.
Wow. But this is just shows you the power, honestly, of masterminds, right? And I've been part of a top producer panel mastermind for a couple of years now with the other organization that I'm part of. And Eric must have been in attendance. I had no idea that he was watching, just like you are right now, right? Our goal is to grow this, right, and expand this. So we have over capacity, hopefully, here on these Zooms. So it's going to be hard for us to get to know everybody, but we're going to do what we can to make it as interactive as possible. But, you know, it just shows you the power just from this case study alone, where Eric watched a Zoom mastermind like this, where we talked about realtor production focused, and then he reached out because my value add to that group was mainly talking about how we work, how I work with investors, and vice versa, right? Because I understand both worlds. And it was cool because he's like, Randy, he's like, you're doing what I'm doing. There's not many of us out there. I'm like, I know, I think there's less, but there's nowhere for us to get together on a national scale, right? And the reality is that it is true, right? 99% of realtor coaching programs do not talk about how to work with investors because they don't really know what that world looks like. They were not raised in that world, right? So they speak to their audience of realtors that really connects to the open houses and the expireds and all the traditional ways of growing as a realtor, right? So this was always on my heart, right? In terms of like bridging these two niches together, right? The realtor niche and the investor niche. How do we bring those in the big real estate industry, right? Because there's so many different niches. There's commercial, there's land, but how do we bring the traditional realtor together to the investor so we can eliminate kind of the you know, some of the negative connotations are going around there that, oh, you know, investors, all they want is just, they want to steal the house from my clients. They just want to lowball my, and then, you know, that's what you sometimes hear from the realtors. And then investors will be like, oh, realtors they waste my time. They don't even want to ever present my offer. It's like, it's a common thing we hear out there, right? And I've been on this mission kind of quietly to a degree here in Southern California for several years. I even launched a podcast about this, which I ended up not, you know, running out of time to do when COVID hit. But so it's kind of cool how this is all coming together now. And when Eric reached out to me, and I was like, man, I literally was, you know, like I'm big in faith. So I was like, hey, I'm ready to do this when I have the right person to do this with, God. So bring me that person whenever the time is right. And then he reaches out of the blue. I'm like, all right, well, maybe this is it. So so then we connected very well. We hit it off, and I just love Eric's energy, the youth that he brings, and the understanding in such a short period of time how quickly you can succeed if you kind of tap into that investor niche, right? And we'll go into that in a moment. But here's a little bit about me. So I started in 2006. My name is Randy Zimnoch. This, if you can remember, some of you, if you were in real estate back then, 2007, 8, 9, that's kind of when things started turning. Everything imploded, right? So I got into real estate basically when that happened, and I learned how to do short sales. I learned how to sell REOs. So I've done over 100 of those back in that day. And then in the middle of that, in 2008, I actually started a real estate, we called it New Jersey Real Estate Social Network. That's what that NJRESN stands for. If you look that up right now, it is still the largest real estate meetup in New Jersey on meetup.com. My buddy, John Steingraber, was my first original business partner in real estate in New Jersey. That's where I started my real estate career. And I can tell you that was one of the best things I could have done for my career back then, is start that group. So if you're in New Jersey, anywhere close, look that group up. My buddy actually just restarted doing the meetings in person again. I think he's going to do one a quarter. We used to do them every single month, and we would have hundreds, like 200-300 people in the room. And then between New Jersey and San Diego, where I now live, I've been involved in over 350 flips. Some of you might know Thanamero and that group. So I was actually a partner in CT Homes. This is Thanamero's flipping company. That's where I did majority of the 350. And I also built our real estate brokerage here in San Diego since 2011, which now we've sold over 1,650 plus properties to date, with my team here. So like I said, I did have a podcast, which most likely we're going to relaunch with Eric, because it was around these topics. I did write a book in the past, but currently I do speak for FortuneBuilders. I speak for Kingdom 320, which is a faith-based real estate coaching company. And then eXp Realty, which is the brokerage that we're part of as well on mainly this topic. So I still run my Southern California team. So if you are here locally, like, please reach out, let's connect. I have 30 plus agents here on my team. And then I oversee a national investor agent organization, 650 strong. So that's kind of the goal for Eric and I. Let's just build our community. Let's grow this together. And it doesn't matter what company you're with, what brokerage you're with, what investment company you're with. It has no meaning to us. We just want to bridge the gap between these two niches, right? Because we know that it could be very fruitful for you if you take action in either direction, whatever we fall on, if you're the investor or the agent. And some of us are both, where we actually do both things, like Eric and myself. And I also I have a partnership now in land wholesaling business, which maybe down the road I can talk about here and how I got into that. And it was, again, through just connecting with other investor realtors. That's how I partnered. So you never know who can be in a room. And that's one of the things I want to make sure you kind of go into this with an open mind. And you never know who you're going to meet through even a Zoom, believe it or not, right? That's how I met Eric, right? He watched me on Zoom, he reached out, boom. And now here we are. Now we're launching Investor Agent Nation brand, a whole business. We have a big vision for this, which we can get into as far as kind of what to expect initially, because this is really surface level. We're just starting. Like, this is going to grow, this is going to get big. But initially, maybe Eric, you want to hit up some of these bullet points so I can stop talking and
yeah, absolutely. So our vision with this was kind of the thing I've always done when I've talked to agents. And even when I was getting into the business, I kind of wanted to be an investor. I was in college and I was talking to agents, and a lot of them just didn't understand it. Like, I'm talking about buy and hold. And, you know, as bad as it sounds, a lot of those agents were just like, look, I'm here for a commission, like, just buy the house or don't. And a lot of times I felt like I didn't have that help. So when I got into this, as an agent, I kind of knew immediately that that's what I wanted to do. So we want to be able to help people, for one, like-minded people that either are agents or investors or both, be able to grow their business, because this is one of the best ways to do it. So like, as an investor, you're able to kind of leverage the agent, which we'll discuss here in a little bit. And then as the agent, you're able to get business, as well as if you go on a listing appointment and there's a hole in the floor and it reeks of cat and you're like, I can't list this, or if I do, it's going to be, or, you know, pennies on the dollar. Instead, you bring it to somebody, you say, hey, I have somebody who has a cash offer they can provide you. And you're kind of adding value to everybody in the situation. So definitely adding that leverage. I know the guy that I actually started flipping houses with, I don't know if he's in this meeting or not. We'll find out here in a little bit. He kind of took a shot on me. I mean, I was a 23-year-old. I didn't have a ton of sales under my belt. What I had was just like that eagerness to do something. Like, I'm like, just whatever you need me to do. I started out just doing the marketing videos. So I'd walk the home and do these Facebook lives that were, I mean, I guess he was always joke around and say just the face of the business. So like, I'm just walking these houses. I'm like, this house is in bad shape. And then I'd walk it again and be like, this house is in good shape. Like, it's sellable now. Building relationships to better serve your clients in business. As an agent, our clients, not every client fits in the box of, I'm just going to list the property. It's in relatively good shape. We're going to get close to market value. And then as well, like, if you have those investors in the background, you can provide that. And then for your investors, you're finding deals and building those commissions in down the road. We just actually had a flip that we got for $325. It's an agent that I built business out with, and she called me and she said, there's a reverse mortgage on the property. The guy really needs to move. He doesn't have anything that he can do. So we purchased it, did the rehab, and we're listed at $550. So we were able to help that guy out. I was able to build that relationship with that agent, continue that going. And then also, it's a great flip that I get to bring to my flipper as well. Expanded to new opportunities. So I've done some private money lending as well. I work with wholesalers. I work with hard money lenders. I have all these connections in the business that I never thought I was going to have. So as an agent, it's great that when I have a client who needs a furnace fixed or something like that, I have those contacts, I have those contractors that I use on a daily basis that I can leverage. And honestly, my clients love it. Like they're like, there's an issue with the house, I have the contact, let me call them real quick, it'll get fixed. It's a reliable person and it's getting done at a good cost. So getting consistent income in rocky or competitive markets, investors buy it any time in the market. Market slowed down a little bit in November, December, we were still getting deals done. Market's picking up now, we're going into spring, we're still getting deals done. So, you know, kind of builds in that consistency. It kind of helps you out. I know as realtors, what we tend to struggle with is you don't know where your next piece of business is coming from. You have to wake up every day. And if you're not constantly working for that business isn't going to just come to you. So when other realtors in our market were really struggling, either during COVID or during other periods of the market, I always had these listings built in because I was putting in the work. I was looking at the properties, I was running the comps, I was running the scope of work. So it was amazing. I mean, other agents are calling, they're like, how are you getting this? And I'm like, you know, I have investors I work with. This is what we do. And at any point, Randy, if you're like, I'm going to cut you off, feel free. As an investor, how to work with realtors to find deals and better understand the market. Investors can also leverage agents. That's what we want to show. This isn't just a positive for agents. As an investor, if you find an agent that is going to have that tenacity to find you deals, to network with other realtors, to go out. I've cold called leads. I've door knocked on houses around houses we've purchased. I've done the direct mails. If you can find that agent that can be a big cog to your business, it's huge because you have somebody that you can rely on. You can leverage off some of that work. You're not calling wholesalers. You're not running comps all day. Like that's what I do. That's my job. I'm going to sit here and run the comps for the properties we have. And one of the morning goals that I had every single day was to run at least 5 properties. So I'd get on the MLS every morning and I'd say, this house looks really cruddy. You know, what's the ARV? What are they asking? What numbers am I going to have to hit to make this work for my investor? And I would send them properties and we'd go walk them and get contracts accepted.
Hey, Eric,
yeah.
I would, let me add something to that because you are like the dream agent that I talk about when I speak on stages in front of investors, right?
Yeah.
Because there's 2 ways that you can acquire properties as an investor, right? There's the direct marketing sale where you go directly to the seller, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that could be through door knocking, that could be through postcards, through text, whatever, right? Mail, or you go through the realtor route, right?
Yeah.
Through building relationships with agents. And a lot of the investors that, you know, I trained and coached over the years, I would say, look, if you don't have a marketing budget yet, then honestly, networking with realtors is the best way to start because it doesn't really cost you anything. It's just conversations, right? But a lot of them would come to me and say, Randy, well, I called a couple of realtors and they don't want to give me a time of the day. I'm like, well, you called the wrong ones.
Yeah.
Keep trying, right? Find the next one that will. And I would literally tell them, like, you want to find someone that maybe not as like completely brand new, right? In an ideal world, but maybe they're like a year or 2 in the business because they're hungry, man. And you are a perfect example, right? You were hungry, right?
Yeah.
When you got that contact with that investor who you recognize them being a serious potential repeat client, you were like, I'm going to go to work. And there is not many of us realtors like that. And it's up to us to interview the right ones. And sometimes they don't even know about the niche yet until you as an investor approach a young and hungry realtor like Eric was a couple of years ago and still is, and bring this idea to them like, hey, have you ever considered working with an investor before? And you might be surprised that they'll actually be really excited to look into the opportunity that you bring to the table as an investor. But you as an investor also have to know how to pitch that opportunity.
Yep.
Right? Because if you lead with just like, oh, you're going to just run comps for me all the time. And well, no, they're going to not take your phone calls after a while, right? Those realtors. So I think it's a perfect example, man. You're like the dream realtor that I always talk about, the avatar. We're gonna share some of these case studies also here that maybe I was involved with, that Eric was involved with. But I also want to bring people from our community to share as well. Like, this isn't the Eric and Randy show. I want this to be a community show. I want it to be that we all learn from one another, right? In this investor agent nation. And we want to hear from both sides. And this is one of the things that Eric and I were a little bit hesitant on. I can tell you, well, maybe me more than Eric, where he's like, oh, we're going to bring this community together, both investors and agents. I'm like, oh man, do we really want to do that? Both groups? I mean, how are we going to navigate through this, right? Because like, I was like, how about we just bring the agents? And he's like, no, let's bring both. And anyway, he sold me on it. Long story short, he sold me on it because I think it would be kind of cool. Now that I kind of thought about it, I was like, wouldn't it be cool if we have the realtors hear it firsthand from an investor right here on this meeting, hear it from the investor, what they're experiencing and what maybe the realtor can do better for the investor to have a better experience, right? And vice versa. How about we hear from the investor telling their realtors potentially what could improve that relationship for them, right? And that's I think where the gold lies in this community that we're building, is that we actually will get to hear from both sides. So some topics will be a little bit heavier on the realtor side, right? Speaking to how they should work, how they can work with investors. Some might be a little bit heavier to the investor side, speaking, how to work with realtors, but ultimately they both work together. So you will find a nugget from whatever we say, because again, if you're in this for that opportunity, then you're in the right room, right? So we'll bring those case studies, we'll bring interviews to you of other successful investors and realtors, and hopefully it's you. And once we get to know you as well, because we want to put a spotlight on you guys as well. So what do you want to add, Eric?
Yeah, I was going to say, so when you were talking about it, it's a symbiote. Like when we were talking about this, I just kept like, I was running over like, because I know you were kind of, do we want to get the agents and investors in the same room? Like what's going to happen? And I just kept thinking in my head, like it's a symbiotic relationship. It goes back to like science class in 9th grade. It's a relationship where both parties need to mutually benefit. And, there's plenty of investors that I have talked to where it's not that case, and I know it's not. So as bad as it sounds, I don't work with them. I have these connections. I have this ability to bring them what I want to bring. What I did is I found people that, one, I really enjoy working with and our values align. So I do everything I can to make it work for them as often as I can. I mean, the investors that I want to work with, I make sure that those are the people I work with. There's other relationships I've seen in this business as an agent, and even on the investment side, where it's, it's take, don't want to give. And I learned really quickly. I mean, I was like, yeah, that's not for me. I mean, it didn't take very long. And I was like, I'm okay. That does not sound good. So, I mean, when you brought that up, that's the thing that always repeats in my head when it comes to this. It's symbiotic. As an agent, you should be providing value. There should be something that you're doing to help your investor. We're not here just to collect commissions. We're here to provide value. We're here to do right by our investor and help them make money. And then in the process, that outcome is we get to make money. We're doing justice by them. And if you're continuously finding them good deals and they're making money, I can promise you your business isn't going to dry up. Where it becomes an issue is if, one of those parties is just trying to be the one that gets everything. That's where you have those issues. So I think that's definitely what we're trying to help with, is how can you provide value as an agent? How can you provide value as an investor? How can we all work together and make this turn out as well as we can?
Awesome. So how about we hit the two groups right now, and then maybe we'll take a poll and then open it up for a discussion.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Let's start with this one. Why should agents consider working with investors? To be a little bit more clear on the reasons.
Yeah. So no more chasing leads. I still have the retail business that I run. I still have my normal buyers and sellers, but it builds in a lot of the fact that I'm not going and having to call people and try and convince them to buy or sell. I'm not having to do those things. What I'm doing is building in business just organically. I'm finding good deals. I know what's coming down the pipeline. I know that if my investors have 10 flips going on, I've got 10 listings coming up. Doesn't mean that I don't stop going on the retail side, but it helps with that consistency. And consistent transaction flow for an agent is so important, because I mean, there's plenty of agents that'll close 4 deals 1 month and they'll go 4 months without a single transaction. So when you have investors, I constantly have stuff going on. I constantly know if I lock up a property for an investor today, I'm not listing it in a week occasionally we do, but most of the time I'm listing it in 2, 3, 4 months. You continue to build that up, and after a while, it just becomes consistent commissions. Work with only a few solid clients each year. If I could just work with investors, and I can, but I am like the retail side too, for whatever reason, you can just work with investors. I know agents that all they do is represent investors, and I promise you they have significantly less headaches. It's a non-emotional transaction when you're an investor. When you're an investor, it's profit, it's what's the opportunity. They're not going to say, I grew up in this house for 40 years, I don't want to sell it, or I have to hit 450 even though the house is worth 200 because my family was raised here. It's the comps say 380, let's list it for 380. So it takes out some of that emotion, makes it really easy.
And the truth is, Eric, I mean, even if you were trying to be only niched and work with investors, you would actually still end up getting traditional clients.
Yeah.
By listing a flip, you're getting a call from a buyer that's a traditional buyer. And if they don't have a realtor, like, why would you not want to work with them potentially, right? And take advantage of that opportunity. So if you do this business correctly and work with investors, it automatically also starts building out the traditional side that you should absolutely tap into, and maybe even bring on the team member if you don't want to do it, right?
Yeah, listings are
no to that business.
Yeah, listings are gold right now, and a lot of agents, like in Cincinnati, we're a pretty large population. Like our metro is like 1.4 million, I think, not including, so like the city's like 400,000, but if you go to the outside suburbs, we have 1,500 listings in this area, 1,500 for a population of 1.4 million. So those are active listings. Listings are gold. It's tough to hit them, but right now I have 4 properties listed because we helped find investors properties, and that's just right now. I mean, we have more coming up. We have more that we just closed in December. So, and then what we do is we have the team members and us as well. We run open houses. We can send out mailers. We door knock around our open houses. We do all these things to grow our business organically. Turns out really well. It kind of builds it in for you. Most of my investors do flip. So most of the times they're going to sell, but we help buy and hold investors as well. So, and sometimes that's on market, sometimes that's off market. And I typically let my investors know, hey, if we're finding it off market, we either agree beforehand how payment is going to go, or I just say, hey, let's continue this relationship. And then down the road, when you need something, or if you need a referral partner or anything like that, I'm your guy to go to. And that's been great, because sometimes my buy and hold guys, a lot of people would throw them to the wayside. Like, I'm not going to find off market deals. He's never going to sell the property. And I go, that's my favorite. Because I'm like, hey, I'm not getting a commission here. You got any family members looking to sell? Or do you know anybody looking to sell? Do you know investors looking to sell? And they pitch me out to everybody. So,
and Eric, one investor, let's say, think of one investor you work with, and the next property you're going to list for him, are you going to have to do a listing presentation for him again?
Nope.
Oh, why not?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, it's comps, and it's we go over that kind of stuff at the beginning of what needs to be done to the property, what's sitting around it. But I mean, it's not going on a listing appointment. It's not, going through all that headache, follow-up calls, what's going on. Oh, you're on vacation this week. You don't want to list. Okay. Oh, it'll be a couple months from now. No, it's, you're getting the listing. So that's the value we're providing. And it's less market volatility. I know we talked about this before, but investors always buy. In 2008, when the market was crashing, sadly, there were still investors purchasing. In 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2013, there were still investors purchasing. A lot of agents left the business. I think our agent count in Cincinnati went from, it was somewhere around 7,000 or 8,000 down to about 2,500, I believe. So almost only a quarter of the realtors survived. And I've talked with a lot of them that made it. I was in middle school at the time, so I'm not as beneficial in terms of, it didn't affect me as much, or I didn't have the same impact, but I talked to all of the agents that survived that time, and a lot of them worked with investors, and they were like, we had people just purchasing properties left and right to hold as rentals. So definitely a positive.
Yeah. I think you hit it on the nail with all the points, but I think what I found over the years, because when I was running the flipping company, I was also in charge of the sales department. So I was overseeing the acquisitions and the sales. And so I built out my sales team because I couldn't do it all. And I honestly didn't want to be the one taking all the calls from realtors, even though I could have listed all of them. So I brought on an agent early on in that business. and we built out a little retail team, right? And that agent took all the calls and got all the offers, presented all the offers to my team and I and my partners, and then we made those decisions. But I can tell you, it was so much easier for us to scale that, right? Same thing for her. That realtor that joined my team, I trusted her already. Like, she didn't have to do listing presentation after listing, but it's like, no, I know what you do. Here's what I need you to do additionally. It became a team effort, right? From a marketing perspective, as long as she did her job, then she would get all the listings from our investment firm, period, right?
Yeah.
And it was like a blessing to her, and it was a blessing to me. Now, did I pay her a full commission? No, we'll get into that in future masterminds on how I kind of structure payments and things like that to get creative. But the reality is that she was so grateful for that opportunity that basically we met, and I met her at an open house.
Yeah.
The only reason I chose to talk to her and interview her to be our agent in-house is because she knew what ARV meant.
Yeah. After
Like, she literally, I was there with my partner JD, and we walked out of the property after we had a conversation with her, and I was like, did you hear that? Like, she understood Mayo and ARV, and she was dropping our investor language. I was like, she's the one. And we called her and got her hired, like brought her onto our team.
Yeah. No, so one of my main flippers, he's licensed, and he doesn't want to deal with it. So I mean, he's licensed, he could list his own properties, and he doesn't. So I mean, he's just like, dude, you handle all of that. Honestly, I think he just has the license for the MLS and a couple other positives, but he's like, I'm not touching it. Like, that's what you're here for, you know? So when there's an issue, or you have to call a buyer's agent who won't pick up and you're on your 15th phone call, he's not dealing with that. I am. So he's hands off. He's like, I'm good. So yeah.
Cool. And then let's go into this. Why should investors consider working with realtors? So I'll cover that a bit. So like I mentioned earlier, there's really no marketing costs, right? It's just your time. That's it. So building those relationships. A lot of times, if you have the right realtor, they're going to be out there searching for properties like Eric was, right? And he would be, the realtors will actually send you opportunities, right? But I think it's a team effort. I don't think you should solely rely on the 2-3 realtors you work with, or if it's just one. You should look for opportunities as well as at the same time as the realtor is. But the truth is, if you work with the right realtors and they're connected to the network of realtors, they're going to hear of deals falling out that you wouldn't, as an example, right? And those are the calls you want to get. Like, hey, Randy, this deal is falling out. They're going to need a backup offer. The seller is frustrated. They're on their second escrow. Like, they're ready to just take whatever, right? These are the calls we get still. To this day, that company that I helped basically start in San Diego, CT Homes, is still operating. I'm not involved in it day-to-day today, but those partnerships that we created with realtors are paying us fruit to this day with deals coming our way. A lot of times you'll be surprised how many actually transactions that realtors do are off market, because they'll get a seller that trusts the realtor, and the seller will tell the realtor, hey, I don't want to go to market. I'm a little embarrassed about my property, or I don't want anyone walking through my house. I just hate open houses. I don't want to sign. I don't want my neighbors knowing. I mean, there's many reasons why a seller honestly would just go to the realtor and say, can you just sell this off market for me, right? Those are the best calls you could get as an investor, right? But you're not going to get those calls if you don't have relationships built with realtors. You're not, right? And usually you'll get the call when you actually close a transaction with that realtor and perform once or twice. Then they will not forget you, most likely, and they will call you when they have that off-market opportunity, because they're like, you know what? Randy and his team, they've always performed. I've closed 2 deals with them. I can now speak from my own experience to my own client, right? And I feel comfortable bringing him and his team to see this opportunity. That's like the gold you want, right? Like, when you get to that point, that means you're doing the business right, right? So repeat business. So realtors will continue to bring you those opportunities. And the biggest thing is that you never know when realtors will get that opportunity also presented to them. So my way of teaching investors is always like, look, spread your wings, build relationships with as many realtors as you want. A few will stand out. Few will be like an Eric, where you're going to spend more time on, right? And then others are going to still be very valuable to you because they're also listing properties, and every now and then a hoarder house will fall on their lap, right?
Yep.
And you want to be the one on their mind when that happens. The challenge is that we as investors, if you're the one to invest, if you're an investor here, you don't know when that will happen, and neither does the realtor, right? Until it comes to him. So as a job for you to get that repeat business, you need to now stay in touch with those realtors, right? Which are the things we're gonna, cover, kind of the systems behind what that would look like on future masterminds. And the final point, really, the pulse on the market, right? That realtors will have in most cases will surpass anything that most investors will be able to learn, especially if you're doing only a few flips a year. You're not going to really have the ability to have a really, really close pulse on the market like realtors that do this business full-time will, right? So they see where the market is heading in most cases, of course, before the public. So hopefully they can educate you on the trends, where things are heading, including finishes. I mean, it's so funny when I look at photos when I used to rehab homes in 2010, 11, 12 here in San Diego. And I look at those photos from those years and I'm like, wow, we were putting in cherry cabinets in the kitchen and black countertops. Like that was in, dude. Like that was like, but that was a trend, right?
Yeah.
And if you're in the business working with realtors, they can start telling you like, hey, things are shifting. People are now wanting the white cabinets, right? Lighter is in, light gray colors are in, right? So now, guess what? Now you as an investor, you got to listen, right? And you start changing your finishes, right? And I'm curious on as a side note, I'm curious, like, what's the next trend? Like
we're going back to like, at least in this market, we're going away from like the light gray and just like white cabinets, normal granite countertops. I mean, there's still investors that are doing it left and right. And it's like any house we've listed that's done that, because it's kind of happened over the last, I'd say 6 months to a year. Any house that we've listed like that, people are just like, yeah, no. Like I just like done with the gray. Most of the buyers we show houses to, if the walls are painted gray, they're like, I'm done with it. Like it's worn its welcome. So we're going back to like the warmer colors, the beiges, certain like hues of blue are in and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I think it's, agents closing anywhere from 100 transactions in the past 2 years. I work with a lot of buyers too. And when I'm showing them houses, I'm hearing what they want and what they don't want. So like one of the things that's really important in Cincinnati, because we get this thing called snow, is having a garage. So there's a huge difference in listing a property, even just in a neighborhood, even if you're pulling your comps, and having a garage and not having a garage. And people don't think that affects the value as much, but here that's like, I've had houses where my buyers love the house and they're like, I'm not offering it. It doesn't have a garage. I don't want to do it. So, those realtors are really local too. So they know exactly what's going on, at least in that we're hyper local for the most part.
Yeah. Perfect. So with that said, I would love to take a poll just to kind of see. We have 26 of us on this first mastermind. So that's awesome. Just get this started to have 26 of us here. Can you guys answer the poll that is in front of you right now? We want to know who's in the room. Are you an agent? Are you an investor? Both or other? Let's see.
A lot of both.
Both. Okay. Wow. Look at that. Both is taking the lead here.
By a lot.
Yeah. All right. We had 21 of you answer. A couple more maybe. All right. Well, so I'm going to take a screenshot of this for myself. So I don't know if this is saved or not. So I'll save it myself. 71% are both. So I'm going to assume that you're either already flipping, wholesaling, or want to, at the same time as you're doing agent activity on the traditional side. So that's awesome. 75%. So both of these conversations are really then, thank you, Eric, for selling me on bringing the two together. Because
yeah, I mean, They go so hand in hand, and it's like there's such a benefit to being both. If you just corner yourself as just an investor or just an agent, it makes it really difficult. So being both is like I wouldn't have it one way or another. I mean, I love being both. I love being able to invest. I have the ideas of what's going on as well in the market, but I also love being able to represent those clients and keep everything kind of consistent.
That's awesome. I just shared the results. I'm going to stop that. Awesome. This is cool. Good to know. So really, I think we would like to open this up to you guys. And I'm going to stop the share right now and see your beautiful faces if your camera is on. And maybe just your initial thoughts about what we're trying to create here. What's just like your initial reaction about, the vision we have, what we want to do with it, any ideas, what we can do. And if, this is the first one, so of course we can improve a lot, but topics that maybe you want to see or hear, just anything. Like if anybody wants to share anything on what we just said, please unmute yourself. Let's make this interactive. You're all muted right now. So if anybody wants to say a word, Beth, come on, Beth.
Okay. Hey, my name's Beth, and I'm in the Hudson Valley in New York State.
Oh.
And started off getting my license as an agent or as an investor, but switched into being more of a traditional agent. But I have to say that having the investor hat on has brought me more referrals, more business, and really a better way to speak to people that don't really understand it when you go to a listing appointment. Having that ability to give cash offers as an option has won me some listings. And I recently went on a listing appointment with a 2-family and really helped the guy out with understanding that he could cash out and refinance. And we talked through how that process worked, and I'm showing him a house to buy on Saturday. So it's turning into more of a traditional buyer side, but I have a relationship there. You also never know where you're going to meet somebody. I was taking a buyer to a house and an investor walked up, and we have something under contract now in that same neighborhood because his girlfriend lived next door or something like that. So you just never know. I think that Randy, one of the things that would be great is I've built a relationship with one investor, and it's awesome. But how do I take that and expand and really leverage, like when I go to a meetup without coming across as pushy? Like, how do I get, more investors to really trust me as their agent?
Yeah.
And also, Randy, one of the things that you covered with us about a year ago was structuring our commissions to really kind of help be the go-to for investors. And one more thing, it's a lot easier to sell a house that's flipped than it is to sell one that isn't. So that's definitely a bonus. So those are my thoughts.
Awesome. Notes taken. That's awesome, Beth. Thanks for the ad there. I know Terry, you're not, I think you're one of the ones that are not licensed, right? You fall in the investor bucket only. Am I right on that, Terry?
Correct. Yes, you are.
Okay. How about we hear from you? Like, how has business been, and in terms of working with realtors, like what value have they brought to the table for you, if at all? Hopefully we have.
Yes. I've created over the last 6-7 years, a great relationship with a core group of agents, and they're pretty much my go-to agents for anything up here in North San Diego County. So, excuse me. So yeah, I mean, and it's all about communication and relationships. So, we foster that almost on a daily basis, touching base with each other. And I see this as an advantage too with, buy and holds in Southern California it's really tough. So to create a relationship with other agents out of state for things like that in the near future, that'd be really good. So yeah, I definitely look forward to fostering new relationships like that.
Awesome, Terry. Let me ask you, how did you meet the realtor, let's say that, one, or I don't know how many you work with.
Yeah.
How did you meet that one that you're working with so consistently?
Just open houses, we're always out, either driving for dollars or after church or breakfast or whatever, we're out driving around. We'll stop at an open house, see what's going on, especially if it's in our target zone of where we like to work. So that's pretty much just communicating with the people having the open house.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I had to put my agent hat on real quick. If you're looking for cash flowing properties, Cincinnati's the best. So I'm just saying, if you don't come here and visit. It's cold and there's not a lot around here. We have a good job base, but man, do we have some cash flowing properties.
Okay.
I haven't talked to you about that yet, but I might need to talk to you too, Eric. So
we're like one of the few places where you can still buy something for say 180 and rent it out for 2,300 a month. So we hit some like really good numbers. Our taxes are pretty low, big job base, lots of stuff going on.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
what else? Anybody else want to share on anything, or maybe even throw a question that we can cover? Because we'll start more of the, I wouldn't call education, but more of we're gonna start picking topics and going deeper into our future masterminds. Today was more about pitching the vision, so everybody's on the same page what we're about, just getting started, and then really asking you for feedback too, and see how we can help each other. So go ahead, Nicole.
Hi, everyone. I am in Colorado, and I started as an investor and then got my license last year. And I really want to know, I do a lot of networking, and I really want to know how to leverage the people that I'm networking with. So, you stand up and you say you're a real estate investor in a room full of agents, and they're like, oh, I have one, I'm fine, I don't need more. Or, how do I navigate wanting to educate them on our speak, kind of, like, what does it mean to have a wholesaler, and what is that going to look like when you have a listing, when it falls out, like, what's the likelihood of that happening? And wholesalers are great, I'm not digging on them, but just that knowledge that we have to bring, that we can educate. I feel like I'm missing how to showcase that.
Got it. That's
and you're
perfect.
wanting to showcase it to the agents.
Yeah.
It's tough. There's a lot of them that are set in their ways. So like most of the agents that, even that I came across in the offices, because I was with Coldwell and Keller Williams before EXP, if you mention that you work with investors, they're like, you're at the bottom totem pole. You know what I mean? They're like, that sucks for you. And I'm like, okay. Especially on the wholesaler side. Wholesalers get a really bad rap. We've wholesaled off properties where the sellers just won out, or even wholetailed it, which is purchase it, doesn't need a lot of rehab, sweep it up, put it back on the market. So you kind of have to let them know, like, look, there's people out there that don't want to sell with agents. It's just the truth of things. We locked a property up in December where I told the guy, I'm like, you can list your house for 200 right now. And he's like, I'm good. And I was like, well, our cash offer would be 150. He's like, I'll take it. I was like, I'm the math, like, you're going to make 185 if you list it. And he's like, no, I just don't want to list it. So, you kind of do have to let them know, but just let them know too, that there's opportunities there that they're kind of missing. And I think a lot of agents are looking for opportunities. So like, that's why we kind of did this too, was just to be able to talk to those agents and say, this is how you can grow your business. So it's definitely
next week, I think, most likely that's probably where we'll start. I think it's just a natural way to start.
Yeah.
How do we find the investors to work with? How do we find the realtors to work with?
Mhm.
What do we say, right? How do we even start the conversation? So I think that would be the perfect topic to lean into and go deeper on next week. Because I feel that's going to be probably a common theme on the beginning as we all get started. So would anybody agree? Maybe with that?
Garrett has his hand raised. We'll let
Yeah,
him.
Garrett, go ahead. The floor is yours, bud.
Hey guys, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the call today and just a lot of great info. Question I had was to all agents, but for you, Eric, and Randy. What Eric, you mentioned earlier in the call that you have certain investors that you like to work with, others that you don't. So what are those investors offering you that makes them stand out, that you're like, that's the guy I'm calling first?
Yeah, I mean, so we do, one of the things I've had to learn is I always wanted to meet with every investor that would give me the time when I first got started. So anybody. And what I learned really quickly is a lot of the people, especially in the Cincinnati market, they want to invest, but they're never going to. So I was giving up a bunch of my time and stuff. So I looked for people who had experience for one, but I also, I mean, you're working with these people. I mean, one of the guys I talk to probably like 15, 20 times a day has become a really good friend to me, and we hang out a lot. So, making sure that we're going to click. Like, I don't want to work with somebody that doesn't align with who I am. I don't want to work with someone who's condescending or anything like that. I want to work with people that when I call them and we have issues, or when I call them and there's good news, like we get to celebrate in it, or we get to tackle the issue. So that's what I've always kind of looked for. I've looked for people that have really, and that's everything in my life. Like even the agents I'm bringing on my team, I want to find people that share common values, common goals. I want to find people that, if we weren't in business together, would we sit down and have a drink together or hang out? And that's typically the people I lean into. I work with people who probably don't fit that bill, but they kind of get the majority of my attention, I'd say.
Are they offering you dual commission on the front end and then relist, like your top, say one to two guys, or?
Yeah, so typically the way we structure it, we had a whole structure where if it was off market, it would just be like a $1,000 finder's fee, nothing crazy. If it was on market, I just got my normal buyer's commission. And then I list 5.5%. I take 2.5, buyer's agent takes 3. So we bake that into the sales cost. It's always going to be different. I will say, as an agent, if you're going to work with investors, and Randy we might disagree on this a little bit. I know we haven't talked about this, so this should be interesting. As an agent, I just don't think that you should talk your commission down. The value I provide doesn't mean that you're going to get a listing for 1% just because of the volume, because we put a lot of money into marketing. We try to get properties sold above ask price. We put a lot of time into it. If you want a discount realtor, then go pay for a discount realtor who's not going to give you that full service. But also because of the time that, like, you have to think as an agent too, if I'm finding you $100,000 property, my commission's $3,000.
Yeah.
So it's not a big commission. So now if you're going to relist that for 220, now we're kind of speaking a little bit more towards, hey, that's our average sales price or something like that in Cincinnati. That's more up the boat. If you want to, at the list side, say, hey, you're taking 1%, I'm gonna be like, the math, that's $5,000 for a lot of my time, a lot of my efforts, a lot of my attention. So there's different ways to structure it for sure. I would
Eric, maybe add. So I think it comes down to the market you're in. So you got to really approach it from what your market is telling you. And obviously everything is data driven, numbers driven. So same thing here. Like Eric is in a very low price point market compared to where I'm at. I'm in San Diego, right? So here it's very common for realtors to do listings for investors for 1%. Why? Because average sales price is 800, 900,000. That's more than what Eric will make on a normal traditional listing, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's just perspective and understanding. But guess what? Which we'll cover this in detail too. Unpack this, but I will list investors' homes for 1% here, but my minimum is $6,000. It's either 1%, it's either 6,000 or 1%, whichever is greater. And I have the investor cover the marketing. I don't pay for the marketing. I want the investor and I to determine together what kind of marketing do they want, right? Yeah. Because some will be cheap, man. Some investors be like, well, I don't want to spend any money on marketing. All right, well, I can't put it out of my pocket because I'm not making that much on the commission because I'm doing you a favor to get more deals. So if you don't want me to do this, this, and this that I recommend, no big deal. So now I'm kind of eliminating the pressure from myself, right? Yeah. They can't point fingers at me, right? So anyway, this is one little strategy that I do, but it wouldn't work in Eric's market because my 1% there I would never list it for 1%. I would probably always have to list it for the 6,000 flat, right? If I applied the same thing, I would always be listing it at 6,000 flat, which would mean it's full 5% commission. At least, right?
Yeah, and we too, I will say, like with our investors, especially the ones I have relationships built up with, if they need it, like on the front, like if the numbers just need it for us to cut, I have that relationship where we do that too. So it's not all about money to me, it's about building relationships. I just try to come at it as, I don't want to cut myself too short. And like Randy said, we're a much lower price point, but I've helped flip $700,000-800,000 homes here. And I'm still taking my 5.5 because I'm like, I did a lot to get this property.
Now, Eric, did you find those deals or?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's different too.
Yeah,
that's a big difference,
absolutely.
Eric. So if Eric finds the deal for you as an investor and he can work his commission into the deal and negotiate for it, well, he earned it. Like, who cares how much he makes?
Yeah.
As long as your numbers make sense, Jarrett, right? But some of the investor relationships that I have built, I actually personally don't hunt for deals for investors here, but I help them in many other ways, which we will go over on future calls because I want to make sure we end on time and honor that. But investors come to me, like I have a house on the market for a local investor, Terry, you might know, Billy maybe, but this is my third flip I'm listing for him. I didn't find any of them, but he knows what I do. He knows I work with a lot of investors. He knows my fee structure from the beginning. He incorporates my fee structure into his deal analyzer, gets the deals locked up. Then he gets my opinion on it. And then I give him thumbs up or thumbs down. Then he buys in and I list it on the back end. I had nothing to do with locating that property for him. That's a very different dynamic, right?
Yeah.
Of value, right? Which I don't mind doing it for 1%, right? I didn't find a deal. So there's many ways to kind of go about this business, that's what I want to unpack because there's so many, like Eric and I are like, we work very differently. Look, and it's just two of us. Imagine when we start hearing from other realtors all over the nation, what they're doing. And I want to learn too.
Yeah. I mean, even here, the agents I work with that work with other investors, I know some of them list for 1% all the time. So it just depends, but I'm sure that'll be something that'll be a whole conversation down the road, because to me, if I'm working with somebody I enjoy and it's less headache, I'll take less pay. You know what I mean? And especially if it's volume or something like that, if I'm having to put more, I want to get paid for what I'm putting into it. So if somebody brought me a deal and they said, hey, I flipped this, will you take a reduced commission? We'll work it out. But if it's something where I put in a ton of effort, value and stuff like that, and they want to, at that point, I'd like to get paid. I have a 7-year-old that I have to feed. So.
Awesome. So we got 2 minutes left. I do want to kind of make sure we end on time. So any other final questions or thoughts? And next week, we'll just go into that topic. We'll go into the topics on the scripting, really on, how do we kind of attract the right investor to ourselves? How do we attract the right realtor? So we can maybe kind of split the conversation a bit next week. But any other final thoughts? Go ahead, Beth.
Yeah, I'm assuming you're fine with us forwarding this information to any of our agent/investor relationships we already have, so we can build our team out.
Yeah, let us help you educate your own investors.
Yeah.
And vice versa. If you're an investor, send it to the agents. Let us help you educate your agents so we can make your job easier.
That's the whole point. Send it out to everybody who you think would get value from this. I mean, that's what we're here to do. We'd love to help.
Yeah, absolutely. So anybody, I've been doing these type of masterminds here in Southern California, and Terry knows, he attends them every now and then for years, right? For my local group of investors. And that's also one of the strategies that we'll cover of how I build my name out locally. But now I'm excited because now we get to do this on a national scale, and man, I can share a lot of stuff and so can Eric, but I want to also hear from other people and get ideas. So good stuff. So Eric, close us out. Any final thoughts? I think this was a great start. We had 29 of us here. Hopefully we can double this. If everybody invites one person, let's grow this community. Invite them to the Facebook group. I'll probably post this recording in the Facebook group as well. So
Yeah. I mean, the only way I'm going to close it is we're here to add value. I want to get as many people in here as we can just to help, but I truly hope people take stuff away from this and try and attend it every week if you can. And everything we can do to, help your business or answer questions or what we do or what we know other people do. That's what we're here for. We're open books. So have a good week. And I don't know, just make it a great week.
awesome. All right, guys, thank you so much. And you're our like founding members showing up for the first one.
Thanks, guys.
All right, love you all. Later,
See you
guys.
guys.
Thank you.